What's up, YouTube? This is the 82-0 podcast. Continuing the 75 anniversary team, we're going to look at Magic Johnson. So, as most people probably know, he was born Irvin Johnson Jr. He grew up in Lansing, Michigan. So, his dad worked at General Motors, and he comes from a pretty athletic background. His dad played high school basketball. His mom was very hardworking, so they instilled this in him pretty young. He initially got the nickname Magic in high school, which his mom didn't actually like the nickname. She thought it was sacrilegious. He enrolled at Michigan State, and this is what started the rivalry between him and Larry Bird, because in the 1978-79 NCAA championship game, Indiana State, which had Larry Bird, was matched up against Michigan, which had Magic Johnson. And it's actually the most watched college basketball game in history. And ultimately, Michigan State would defeat Indiana State 75-64. And Johnson was voted the most outstanding player in the Final Four. Then he declared for the 1979 NBA draft, which, when he went to the NBA, he was drafted into a really good situation because he went to the Lakers with Kareem, who was already an established star, and his rookie season was actually Kareem's final MVP year. But that early Lakers team, all of their teams were deep, but this early Lakers team was deep, and he didn't actually start playing the point guard. A lot of people don't know that. He was originally a shooting guard at the team, because originally Norm Nixon was the point guard for the team. And this team also had Spencer Haywood, Michael Cooper. But this was, in his rookie season, they made it to the NBA Finals against the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, Kareem went down with an injury in the finals. And this was in Game 5 he went out. Which prior to that, he was having an amazing series. But it was looking like the Sixers were going to make a comeback without Kareem. So in that Game 6, that Magic started at center. And he had 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block just in his rookie season. And they would end up defeating the Sixers 123-107 just in his rookie year. So coming out of the gate, he's coming off of an NCAA title and a NBA championship in his first year. Now, in the 81 season, however, despite their 54-28 record, they got bounced in the first round by the Houston Rockets. And in the 81-82 season, Magic would make it back to the finals, again defeating the 76ers in 6 games. Now in 83, however, the Sixers in the offseason acquired Moses Malone. And Moses was arguably the best player in the league. He had 3 MVPs. 2 at that point. He would win MVP in that season. But the Lakers couldn't get it done that finals. They were swept by the Sixers. But the following season, this was definitely a low for Magic too. As in the 83-84 season, which Larry Bird, his rivalry from college, had went to the Celtics. And historically, the Lakers and the Celtics had a rivalry dating back to the late 50s, all throughout the 60s. So Larry Bird going to the Celtics and Magic Johnson going to the Lakers is almost like a storybook script. And Bird had won a championship in 81. And so it was looking like they were eventually bound to meet each other in the finals, and it came in 84. So the Celtics and Lakers It came down to 7 games, in a classic fashion. But Magic Johnson choked in that game. He only shot 35%, and he had 7 turnovers. This gave him the brief nickname of Tragic Johnson because of that loss. And he was coming off of the sweep from the year before. But unlike other players who don't have tough skin, he came back better than ever. And in the 85 season, they ran it back. They went all the way back to the finals. They won 62 games that year. And this 85 team was different than some of their early teams. This was their first championship team with James Worthy. They had Byron Scott now. They got Bob McAdoo. Jamal Wilkes. I think that was his final year there. But, they got rid of some of their older guys. Norm Nixon was gone. Spencer Haywood was gone. So this team had its core, which we knew throughout the later 80s. And they beat the Celtics this time in Game 6. Now, thing is, just like in 81 when he got defeated by the Rockets, it happened the same thing in 86. He got defeated by the Rockets. And this was in the conference finals. And the Rockets would end up going to the finals against the Celtics. So it could have potentially been 3 years in a row, Lakers and Celtics. But anyways, 87 was probably Magic's best year in the NBA. Because they went 65-17 that year. He won his first MVP that year. Before that, it was Bird getting the MVPs, but he won his first MVP. They go back to the finals, and lo and behold, they face the Celtics again. This time, they beat them in 6 again. And some people consider this the best Lakers team of all time. It had, Kareem was still doing his thing, James Worthy, AC Green. It was a very deep team. And it was during the celebration that when they were having the championship parade, Pat Riley, their coach, said, "We'll be back here next year to win a title." So that put a lot of pressure on the Lakers. And in 88, they lived up to that. They won 62 games that year. This time, however, they had a different opponent in the finals. This was Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons. They defeated them in 7 games, which had a very controversial ending, but nonetheless, they won. Magic didn't win MVP that year, but however, in the 89 season, he won his second MVP. This time they went 57-25, and this time, however, they lost in the finals to the Pistons, but it should be noted that Magic Johnson didn't play in that final series. And the 1990 season, he won his third MVP. This time they lost in the semifinals by the up-and-coming Phoenix Suns. And at this time, Kareem was gone. The team was starting, I don't want to say they're getting old. Kareem retired, but they still had AC Green, James Worthy. Now we get to the 91 season. This would be Magic Johnson's last hurrah. He was at the top of the league in MVP voting. He didn't win. He put up an elite 19 points per game, 12 assists per game, 7 rebounds, 1.3 steals on elite shooting. And this is the thing about Magic. Earlier in his career, he didn't have the best outside shot. He improved it. I'm not saying he was like a Steph Curry, but he got better and more respected from deep. This team had some more changes. They had guys like Vlade Divac, Sam Perkins, and they made it to the finals. This time it was against the up-and-coming Chicago Bulls. And some people predicted the Lakers to win based on Magic's experience, but it didn't happen. And it was in that offseason he was diagnosed with HIV. And there's a very sad press conference he gives when he announces he has HIV. Because you got to understand, at the time, people didn't live very long with HIV. People died really quick. People were thinking Magic was going to die, and he was still in his prime. He was only 31 years old in that 91 season. So he had an early retirement. He did, however, get the chance to compete in the 92 Olympics, and he did get to play in the 92 All-Star game despite his illness. And he did make a brief comeback in the 95-96 season with the Lakers. He only played a couple of games, but he wasn't himself. He wasn't the star of the team, and he retired to give the young guys a chance. He only played about, I think, 30 games that season. But at the end of his career, he was considered the consensus greatest point guard of all time. And he's a 12-time All-Star, a 5-time NBA champion, 4-time assist champion, 2-time steal champion, 3-time Finals MVP, 3-time league MVP, and a 2-time All-Star MVP. And he put up this resume without really playing into his full potential. Like I said, he retired at 31. It's a great what if. What if he would have kept playing at an elite level? What if that never happened? And he's sometimes considered the greatest Laker of all time, although Kobe kind of challenges him for the title of greatest Laker of all time. It's just kind of up to opinion. But he's undoubtedly top 5 player of all time. And he is the consensus greatest point guard of all time. It should be noted, too, his success off the court. He didn't pass away early. He's still alive and kicking. He's still married to his wife that he married in the early 90s. He has a son. And he went on to become the executive for the Lakers in the 2010s. He was the one that brought LeBron James to the Lakers. So, a true success story.